You know, I think we saw this one coming, but I didn't think it would happen this quickly. Rise the Resistance boarding groups no longer going to be a part of Walt Disney World. What's up with that? Let's get into it. Since the opening of Rise the Resistance, we have been experiencing boarding groups at Walt Disney World and Hollywood Studios. And you know, we've gotten used to it. We know all the secrets. We know how to get, one of the higher number of boarding groups. We've made many videos about it to try and make it as easy as possible, but now Disney is changing this system. We always knew that they would have to kind of walk away from boarding groups on certain attractions because over time the interest would kind of wane. But I personally didn't think it would happen this quickly. I thought it would be okay, once Tron is open and maybe Guardians is open too, then we'll see more of the dispersion of guests all around Walt Disney World, and Rise will be a little bit older at this point. Neither of those attractions is open, and we're already doing away with the boarding groups for this attraction right now. Let's get right into the heart of it. We know our guests love choice and flexibility when planning their time in a theme park, which is why starting September 23rd, we will pause the use of virtual queue for Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, and guests at Disney's Hollywood Studios may experience this incredible attraction using a traditional standby queue for the first time since it opened in 2019. Keep in mind, they said a pause. They didn't say it's gone forever, they didn't say it's being completely eliminated, and they kind of went into more detail about that in the next paragraph. Virtual queues continue to be helpful with attraction access, merchandise launches, grand openings, and more, and guests should continue to check the My Disney Experience app for the latest on how you're using virtual queues across Walt Disney World Resort, including its potential use at Star Wars Rise of the Resistance at a later date from time to time. I can sum that entire thing up in one sentence. They're going to use virtual boarding groups when it's more crowded. We kind of saw this coming because for a couple weeks now we've seen Rise the Resistance boarding passes available in 2 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon, just throughout the day we see more and more boarding passes available. You can just get one at any time you wanted to. Hard to imagine that since 2019 that much has changed. We have guests kind of experiencing other attractions even more at Hollywood Studios. That being said, the boarding passes will no doubt be returning to Rise the Resistance. There is no way they would put this in the post and they're not returning. It is no doubt going to be returning. However, they're saving it for the most crowded times of year. In my mind, this is a good thing and also not a good thing at the same time. It's a good thing for some because let's pretend for a moment you're not as used to the system, you don't exactly know how to get that boarding group first thing in the morning. This is helpful for you so that you can just head on in line, don't have to worry about any of the technical piece of it, maybe you don't really like the technical piece of it, you head in line, you're set to go. But that kind of gets to the negative part too, that line. There is no doubt in my mind that when boarding groups are officially put on pause at Rise of the Resistance on September 23rd, 2021, we're going to see a longer line at Rise of the Resistance. In the past, you'd have a boarding group, you'd scan it to stand in line, and you'd still have to wait, what, maybe 45 minutes? Maybe something like that, or close to it, maybe an hour. Let's just kind of round figure, not exact, but round figure about an hour. What will it look like when there's no boarding groups at all? Will the line be longer? I think it's an easy bet. Considering the fact that the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train usually has a wait time upwards of 90 minutes or more, usually more, it's no surprise that many of us are expecting 2-3 hour waits for Rise of the Resistance during kind of, I'm going to call them standard times at Disney. It's true that September is usually a very quiet month at Walt Disney World. School's going back in session, a lot of things are happening. It's, in the past anyway, been pretty quiet. So to me this does make sense. But when the holidays come back at Walt Disney World, we can expect the boarding group to come back as well. It is a big change, no question about it, but the biggest part of this post, in my opinion, is Disney continuing to tell us about the fact that they want to use this system for other things like grand openings and merchandise launches. So you think to yourself, okay, a new Loungefly bag comes out. Does that mean I have to get into a virtual queue to just get the one Loungefly bag from the Emporium? It's a possibility. In recent days we saw the opening of Creations at Epcot, and when we were there we saw a lot of people buying a tremendous amount of merchandise. Disney restocked the merchandise, they already were ahead of the game, they were able to put everything back on the shelves the very next day, so it was super easy. However, a lot of guests are really interested in that merchandise. They tried by limiting it to 2 per guest, and I think they're going to try something different in the future with this virtual queue. Imagine you go to Creations as an example, and there's a brand new Epcot bag that you really want and everybody really wants too. You go into the store, maybe as you walk into the park, you have the ability to click in the app to book to get that bag. Just the one new bag at creations. And when you get to the store, the bag is behind the counter. You cannot actually, like pick it up off the shelves. It's behind the counter so that you can see it once your time comes up. The reason why they might do this is because they have a lot of guests who really want this item, and they want, to have some guests having the opportunity to experience this, right? You want to make sure as many guests as possible have the opportunity to get this bag, as an example. So I think it's a good thing. For those kind of things, I think it does make sense, but I think it may add to some confusion later on. Like everything in life, there's a positive and a negative, an up and a down, right? You say to yourself, okay, the system makes sense, buying a bag at Creations. But who does it make sense for? For those of us who like to keep up with the day-to-day changes at Walt Disney World, it makes a ton of sense. All right, I know I can get to Creations at 12 in the afternoon, and I can get that bag because they've got it reserved. I can reserve it in advance. You know what I mean? They have that ability, and as someone who goes all the time and likes to keep up with all of this, we can do that. However, for the more casual guests, and I get messages all the time about this, it's becoming more and more complicated to figure out how to get a piece of merchandise, or where do I go to stand for a boarding group? Oh wait, I have to use my phone. It has become so complicated so quickly, and it keeps changing so quickly. I think it might be adding to some confusion. Now there is a positive here. I don't believe that these changes are permanent. I think this is part of the mass crowds that Disney is expecting for the 50th anniversary. So I don't think that we're going to see, virtual queues for merchandise, as an example, forever and ever. I don't think we're going to, maybe for grand, openings and when a ride first opens. That's about it. So grand opening, and then a couple months, maybe a couple years after, and then the virtual queue goes away. But to think that we're going to need a virtual queue for merchandise all the time, I don't see it. I really don't. But needless to say, this is meant as a crowd control option, and at the same time, it has to be noted, it is meant to kind of push guests towards Lightning Lane and purchasing those quick queues. We're just going to call it a quick queue to get through a little bit faster. It is meant to do that. That is important to note. So Disney is trying to kind of juggle a little bit as they're going through here, and also push their new service. Now when I say that, it actually kind of ties into what we just said, right? If you want to take the time to research how to get on this ride at a certain time and figure all that out, you can do that, right? Or if you just want to kind of be a more casual guest and just show up, they're offering you the option to do that and pay for that option. So that I think is the strategy that Disney's currently using to try and, kind of work through this system and make crowd control as easy as possible. But I think for many of us, it's difficult because we've known the system for so long. We know fast passes, we know how to go to these things at certain times to get the lowest wait time possible. And for this massive change to happen, it makes us rethink how we're going to experience the place that we love. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Do you think that this system is being used in a way to kind of help with crowd control for now and probably won't be used forever? Or do you think this is something that we're just going to see for everything in the future? Every new bag, every new small restaurant, every new quick service spot is now going to need a virtual queue. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Love to hear from you. Thanks so much for being a part of the magic with me today. Until next time, have a magical day.